Do you think you're weird? Or that you've seen some weird stuff? If you think you've seen it all, then think again. We're about to show you some weird things that you'll never be able to unsee. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below. With that being said, let's dive into the video. The Roosevelt Hotel offers a $15,000 stay to whoever steals the most outrageous item from them. For the Roosevelt Hotel's 125th anniversary, they've decided to celebrate this momentous occasion by doing something people would never forget: reward thievery. And no, it's not just some petty toothbrush theft. You'd have to steal the strangest item and then present the stolen item to the hotel. The reward is definitely worth the shame. A reward of a 7-night stay in their presidential suite, including spa services and even meals prepared by the hotel's executive chef. All worth a whopping $15,000. This is the vacation offer that no thief could pass up. Still, even though the hotel announced it, something this good sounds too good to be true. Well, you won't have to worry. The hotel management promises not to call the cops on you or even ask questions. If you don't feel too guilty after receiving the 7-day vacation, the hotel actually lets you keep the stolen item. The management knows that some of the hotel's items might not be returned to them, but instead of shaming the crimes, they defend the thefts, saying it is a way to celebrate the hotel's heritage. Because in this way, something from the Roosevelt's hotel is in people's homes. Next time you're at the Roosevelt Hotel, be sure to bring an extra duffel bag. A cornflake shaped like the state of Illinois sold on eBay for $1,350. Imagine two sisters from Virginia eating their usual breakfast and laughing over a cornflake that looks like Illinois. One of them says, "Hey, let's put it up on eBay and start an auction." 15-year-old Melissa went through with her questionable plan and luckily got some quick cash for her quick eye. Trivia Mania website owner Monty Kerr of Austin, Texas decided it would be a great addition to his collection of pop culture and American items. So he went online on March of 2008 and won the auction with a bid of $1,350. Strangely enough, this wasn't the first time Monty had ordered a cornflake online. He had bought the biggest cornflake ever, but it had broken into 3 pieces in the mail. This time, he's sending someone to pick up the cornflake in person. Maybe have them pick up some milk on the way back, Monty. An ancient mummy has a modern-day passport. It is extremely important to have a document that proves your identity, especially when traveling. We'd assume, though, that only applies to living, breathing travelers. Well, what happens when an ancient mummy from nearly 3,000 years ago is declared to need one? Well, if they need one, our pharaoh better get in line. Long story short, they did end up getting him a modern-day passport and even included a photo of his mummified face. Ramses II, or better known as Ramses the Great, was the 3rd pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of the New Kingdom. Upon his death, his tomb was buried in the Valley of the Kings and later moved to a royal cache, where it was discovered in 1881. A fungus had been discovered on the mummified corpse, risking total decay of the body. He needed a passport to be able to travel to Paris for treatment. Thankfully, the Egyptian government gladly issued one to the late pharaoh. The Queen owns all the swans in England. You heard that right. Queen Elizabeth of England owns all the swans swimming in open waters in England. The Queen actually happens to own all the porpoises, whales, and dolphins among UK waters as well. It all started in the 12th century, when the legislation was created because swans were considered a prized food at royal feasts and banquets. Today, swans are a protected species and are taken care of by the Warden of the Swans and the Marker of the Swans. Yes, those are real jobs. The swan's protection is very strict. Centuries ago, citizens suffered severe punishment for killing or harming a swan. Offenders could even be sent to jail for a year for stealing swan eggs. Food leftovers have been sold for $3,000. In the year 2000, former boy band singer Justin Timberlake's half-eaten French toast was put on eBay and it sold for a whopping $3,000. The French toast was from his breakfast appearance on the Z Morning Zoo show while he was still part of his old band, NSYNC. An avid fan spent a whopping amount of money for a half-eaten French toast left by Timberlake, along with the fork used, of course. The toast was put on eBay by a DJ at the radio station, which I'm sure he was glad he did, since he made a pretty penny from selling the leftovers. A tooth can grow inside your nose? We've all gotten the flu at some point in our lives, and we all agree it sucks. Stuffy nose, scratchy throat, restless nights, and worst of all, you can't taste or smell. Thankfully, it happens and lasts for around a week, right? Well, imagine if all those symptoms lasted for 2 years. This was the case for a man in Denmark. When he finally visited, he told his doctors about his 2-year-long history of nasal congestion, discharge from his nose, and difficulty in smelling and tasting. Even after trying nasal steroids, no improvements were made, especially on his left nostril. The physical examination conducted showed that the patient's nasal canal was off-centered and that there was some sort of mass in the floor of his nasal cavity. A 13mm by 6mm tumor was covered by the lining of his nasal cavity. Although the doctors were unable to confirm what it was until they performed surgery. However, after the operation, the mass was extracted and sent to the lab, where they confirmed it was indeed a tooth. This very rare phenomenon has only had 23 cases in 49 years. Let's hope that your next flu turns out to be just a flu. The biggest living thing on Earth is a massive fungus. If you love mushrooms, you've probably heard about honey fungus. Although tasting our dishes, it's torture for our gardens. These delicious mushrooms can, after all, kill an entire tree. The largest known honey fungus spans 2.5 square miles and is reported to be possibly over 8,000 years old, earning the title, the biggest living thing on Earth. So forget about blue whales and orcas. When your science teacher asks you this question, you know what to tell them. It's a honey fungus mushroom from Washington. Your blood vessels are longer than the equator. You might think it's impossible. Blood vessels are tiny, but they are also very long. While a child's blood vessels might reach 60,000 miles, an adult's blood vessels would stretch to over 100,000 miles long. A child's blood vessels would be able to wrap the Earth's equator twice, and an adult's blood vessels would circle the globe 2 more times. This fact sure doesn't seem real, but if you don't believe us, fact check it with your doctor next time you see them. Pringles inventor's remains are in a Pringles can. Frederick Bauer died at the age of 89, and his last dying request was to be buried in his billion-dollar design. His children went to their nearby local Walgreens store and were even indecisive about which Pringles can to use as an urn. But they obviously settled on the classic original. Full disclaimer, the majority of his ashes are in a traditional urn, but a portion of him is inside the creation that lives in people's memories and grocery shelves. A man once ate an airplane. Monsieur Moncheteau, a Frenchman, developed pica at the age of 9, which meant he acquired an odd affinity for eating indigestible items such as metals and grass. The average person would most likely die from this, as it can cause an immune or digestive system failure. Fortunately for Moncheteau, physicians discovered that he had an unusually thick stomach lining and intestines with an even stronger digestive system, allowing him to consume just about anything. He started with eating 18 metal bicycles and 6 chandeliers, but Moncheteau's appetite progressed to a whole new level when he decided to eat, piece by piece, a whole Cessna 150 airplane in 1978. You would think that eating an airplane would lead to this guy dying, but he remained immune to the dangers of pica and died at the age of 57 from natural causes. This man had a gift and an appetite. Now, I've seen some weird things in this world, but none like those. Subscribe and comment down below what video you'd like to see next, and I'll see you there.